As I was reviewing the assignments, and I don't know where the problem lies, but a bunch of people, more than half, I would say, didn't hit all the marks of getting their blocks put together and even getting their submittals the way they were asked for in terms of the PDFs and that kind of stuff. Let's talk about that part first, because a lot of times when you're working for somebody, you'll get a request from your project supervisor or your employer or somebody or a client, and in that kind of relationship. They want a certain amount of images, let's say of a certain size, a certain resolution in the following order.
You might think that's more than necessary.
But it might turn out that the client has asked for them exactly like that, so they can go right on their website and fit in with everything else that's there. So really, please do pay attention to that, just as a matter of courtesy to me, so that I don't have to sort of reorient myself every time I look at a different set of images, and also just as good practice for you guys. I mean, if you're asked for your term paper double spaced with 1-inch margins, it'll be double spaced with 1-inch margins, and that's really what I'm asking for here. I copied some of you a fairly explicit set of what I was looking for, just the procedure of putting a block together. That is in the Grabowski book, which nobody read, so I'm going to go over it today just to make really clear what's happening and why. I didn't go into the why so much, and I outlined it in assignment 2 about putting everything on layer 0, how to set them up, how to make the block. But they're really an important part of how AutoCAD works, and by extension, pretty much how every CAD program works. We don't do everything from scratch. We import symbols from all over the place. And when you're importing symbols that other people have made, you need to be able to trust that they were made consistently and will behave consistently. And will, in AutoCAD's case, will change color when their layer changes. Just to make the program behave well, there's certain things we have to do to put into that. So let me review that. So, and I guess I will be a little more explicit when I have a certain order of things that things need to happen. And instead of like writing a narrative paragraph, I'll do bullet points. So it's just easier to realize, okay, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. But it's sort of like in 6th grade arithmetic, check your work. And I think some people just did not go back to make sure that the assignment they've handed in actually met what I'd asked for. So then that's a problem. Even if it's nice work, but you've missed some important steps, and somebody else has done equally nice work, and has done those steps, then I can't grade them the same. So that's sort of where that came from. Let me show you what happens when you make a block the wrong way to see why that's not working. Let's just say I was working on the A wall layer, and I decided to draw a chair. Let's say it's 30 by 30. 30 by 30. And we'll put a little back on it. Just so we know what's the back and what's the front. There's my chair. And I decided to make this a block. Oh, and also some people made them into groups, but not into blocks. And a group is handy as something that's inside the drawing. Doesn't have a name, you just move it around, explode it as you want. Blocks are, you can go online and get an AutoCAD block with a 747 or a football field or a teapot. They have names and you can share them with people. So let's just go to use the block command. And we're going to call this chair 01. Well, we'll make that better. CHAIR 01. We're going to pick a point. I'm going to pick a point down here. Select the objects. Select the objects. All those guys. And we'll convert that thing itself into a block. Just the one that's right there will become one as opposed to remaining lines. And I'll say, okay. So now when I go to insert a block, I go over to insert, and we can see the objects that are there's that one that never got anything made in it. Here's this one. There's the title block over in layout space. Chair 1. A couple of things with this. Because I picked the insertion point down here just sort of randomly while I was making that, that's where the cursor is when I'm putting this together, which makes it a little tough to line up with walls or other pieces of furniture or something or other. So some offices just say consistently, we're always going to put it right in the middle. Some people say here, some people say on the back. And one of the problems with those, and it's very consistent, there's no rule. Maybe they do it differently in Japan than they do it here. But if this one's point is down here, insertion point, and then I had replaced this block, replaced all the chair 1s with chair 2, and chair 2 had been drawn with its insertion point right here, then the new chair would be down here. The insertion point stays the same, but the geometry moves relative to it. So it's really helpful to have that like either right in the middle of something or, one of these here or here or here, just somewhere useful. Some people do beds right here so they can just click it right onto the wall. Some people refrigerators would put it 2 inches behind it. So that clicks onto the wall, so you end up with ventilation space. Whatever you do, maybe you look at a couple of similar blocks in your drawing and figure, well, those all have theirs on the bottom right hand or on the corner. So I'll do that for this one. That's sort of part of that group as well. Okay, so here are these 2 blocks. You notice that this is a block reference and its name is chair 1. But it's on the wall there. Okay, which, as we know, is which is brown. And AutoCAD makes such heavy use of colors and just keeping track of what stuff is that it's really important that things behave that way. So, okay, well, I'll just put this over on the furniture layer. Where is it? iFern, did we decide? Okay, well, iFern is this orangey color. Why did this change?
Because you created it.
It's because those lines are on the wall there. I'll leave this one here and explode this one. So these, this rectangle is on the wall there. Can't go anywhere else. What we really want to do here is take these guys and put them all this magic layer 0, which I'm calling my chameleon layer, which is in every drawing. Oops.
So could you make a layer and like name it blocks, or does it have to be set on block or layer 0?
Layer 0. Layer 0 has the unique principle of being able to take on the attributes of whatever layer the block is placed on. It's like made to do this. It's just like this. This is just where you construct it, and then you can put it wherever you want.
On whatever layer you want.
So here these are on layer 0. And we want their color, not to take their color from layer 0, but from the block that they're contained in. So whatever layer I put this block on, the yellow furniture layer, the block will inherit that, and the lines will inherit that. And I didn't make this up. I didn't invent it. It's just the way it is. And let's just live with it and deal with it. But hopefully you won't be using AutoCAD for your entire career. Okay, so now we have this guy, these guys, which are all on layer 0 with color by block. So I'm going to make a new block. I'll call it chair 2. And I'm going to, let's say I just pick this midpoint right here. It's a nice, useful place. It's a little hard to find the exact center of this without drawing a line, picking the midpoint. So I'll just say right here. Select the objects. Those. Okay. Chair 2, we've got the base point. We select the objects. They're already on their right layer and stuff. We say okay. Now, it might look like nothing has changed, but this block, because their wall was the current layer, the block's on the current layer. But if we change the block back over to iFern, it'll take on the iFern characteristics, and you'll know what it is, and it'll travel. You can send it to anybody, and they can put it on any layer of any color they want, and it'll inherit that, and it's all good. And the only drawback to this, and it's just a limitation of the fact that AutoCAD has no standards.
You might receive a block for a bathtub with the lines of the tub itself on layer 0, so you can put the block on the layer of your choice and it will behave. So far, so good. But whoever created the block might have wanted to locate the 2 connection points to the hot and cold water supplies and created lines on the layer P fixed water hot and P fixed water cold to do so. When you insert the tub block into your drawing, those 2 layers are automatically added to your layer list, but not fit the way you use layers at all, and the connection points might not be something you even want to show. So all in all, I suggest for the purposes of this course that we avoid blocks with internal layers like that and stick with layer 0.
This is the talk I should have given 2 weeks ago instead of telling you to read chapter 17, or see this and then read chapter 17. And Grabowski, he goes into it in more detail, but this is the basic reason, is to keep things the right color on the right layer so you know what they are and can turn them on and off with thoroughly. We want to talk today mostly about and then do an exercise with. And did you guys draw elevations for Becky? I know when I was drawing by hand, whenever that was years ago, I'd have the floor plan with doors and windows and stuff. And I'd take that down on my drafting table, put my sheet I was drawing on top of that, do light projection lines up to understand where the levels of things were, baseboard, railing, chair rail, that kind of stuff. Draw that wall. Then peel everything off, rotate the plan 9 degrees, tape everything back down, line where the new one's going to go lined up with the old one. Is that making clear? Does that sound familiar? And keep on drawing. We're going to do something slightly analogous to that because we're still drawing with a computer. There used to be a CAD program called Electric Pencil, which is sort of what it is. You know, we're still projecting lines up, drawing some horizontal atoms, and filling in the various rectangles or whatever of what we're building. But a way to make that a little cleaner is what I'd like to propose. If we can open the drawings that came down from Blackboard. Stop. This one, apartment plan for elevation exercises. Everybody got this more or less? I mean, you can watch or you can follow along, doesn't as you wish. I mean, one of the things in manual drafting you don't want to do if you don't have to is copy stuff. So as I'm trying to figure out how to draw this elevation with the counter and this elevation with the window for this exercise, I don't have to like turn sideways and draw this one looking this way. I'd like to be able to just sort of draw them both up and have them next to each other so I can see what's going on. And this is where something's nice about CAD comes, because we can make copies of stuff, work with it, and then erase it. And that's what we suggest here, that we leave this building right here, but copy this much, let's say over here, and copy this much over a little farther, and then rotate it so we can then just sort of draw up from both of those at the same time and get all their baseboards and cabinet heights and stuff lined up appropriately. So I think I do copy, I'll use crossing, and I'll use, keep this turned on. And then any number of ways to do this. I can draw a line like this. And then I can trim these off and then erase those. So it's all the information I need, but I'm not going to mess up my original over here. I could have copied the whole kitchen. Frankly, I just want to sort of keep it clean, just to emphasize what I'm doing with these two walls. And then I'll do copy. I want to make sure to get the walls, because we're going to have edges on these, and also to get the lines indicating the counter. So put them over here. Eventually, we can develop that into a section. We'll have the information we need there. So that was copy. Move these over here. And then I'm just going to rotate these around 90 degrees. Maybe about, I don't know, this point over here. I've got ortho snap turned on, so it goes right to 90. I can drag this across, just get them lined up. And just bring this straight down. I can snap to the midpoint, or I could snap to perpendicular, which would be shift right click, perpendicular. There it is. So there's that. I have some more information about the window I'd like to share, which is in the photograph. I'm just going to bring that photograph right into the drawing so I can see what I'm working on. I'll just trim these off first. Get these out of the way. So under insert, under attach.
On the Mac, it's attach raster image file.
I can go get my window for elevation. And I can resize this, to get it, in fact, pretty close to what these guys are going to be, but I really just want to see the dimensions on them. So I'm just going to say, okay, to whatever size it is. And we'll put it there so I can read those. And this is sort of a cheating way to do dimensions. I forget who did it this way. Oh, Chloe did it on her blocks, where she photographed them and then measured them, wrote it right on the image. I took this photograph, printed it, took it to the site and did the dimensions there. It was faster than drawing it. But with an iPad, you really could take that picture and do that right, take the measurement and do it right there.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and I think what that doesn't provide is a sort of a visual analysis that goes on when you actually have to draw things and realize, these two line up, which you might not have been aware of just taking the photograph. But here these are. And I guess what I'll start with is I've got a floor here. I've got a ceiling at 8.11.5. That'd just be two good lines to start with. And then there's a baseboard here at 7 inches. Move these down. I'm not going to try to scale off of these. I could, frankly, I could scale this to just the right size and try to trace it. But the point is to do our constructions right here.
And it wouldn't be perfectly orthogonal.
So I would like to make a layer of construction lines just for whatever I need going on here, just to keep track of things. So I'm first going to make a new layer, and I'm going to call it construction lines, and maybe make it sort of dim on my screen, a light gray or something. And I'm also going to lock that layer. Well, once we get there, I'll lock it. So for any old place, then offset through 8 foot 11.5. And this over here was 7.5 inches. Maybe I'll scale this down so it's sort of closer to that size. Oh, I have to do it like this. Oh, look, I can say height 14 feet. I'll just say height 12 feet. I'll get it pretty close. I'm completely just making this up as I go along, guys, so don't take this as like gospel. But so here are these two guys. I'll offset this 7.5, 5. Maybe I'll put in that sill line at 22.5. And that's really going to be sorry, Control C. No. 22.5. The shortcut is O, but I sort of wanted to be explicit about stuff. And it wasn't that one, it's the bottom one I need to offset 22.5. O. Okay.
So are your lines right there at the your window still, or is that just?
This is just a construction line, just a horizontal datum that I'm going to work up from. And I realize I don't care where the window is over here, just in this elevation. So I'm going to just slide this back so it only applies to that window. Let's maybe do that one first and then get into the casework. So I see that the whole window, well, the sill's at 22.5. And then I have 61 and then 6 for the cap. So that's information that I don't have in the CAD file. What I do have in the CAD file is the plan dimensions for these openings. So at this point, I think I'm going to take that I'm going to stop being on the construction layer and make a layer for, usually you draw sections and elevations just on some detail layers, a thin, a medium, and a thick. For the time being, let's just make a dash detail. New layer, a dash DETL. I'll make that some new color that we can see easily. And then make that current. I don't want to accidentally, while I'm working on this construction layer, change it or trim any of those lines. I want them still available over at the same level over for the cabinet elevations. So I'm going to lock the construction layer, just that first little guy, locks it. So I can select them. I'm not supposed to be able to do that. Just a second. Lock. Lock. Okay, let's just make sure of something. Oh, okay. I put those, I thought they were on the construction layer. They weren't on the construction layer.
I created the construction layer, but not made it current before I created the lines.
So there's my construction layer. Now it's locked, and now those I can't get rid of. I can't erase them if I wanted to because that layer is visible but unable to be done. Oh, I see. I already started here. I created a layer called detail medium. I mean, I was just working on this drawing this morning. I forgot I had that, and I have this one named with A's in front instead of not. I should sort of name these something like the same so they at least line up together. A detail medium. Well, I'll call this one a detail light then, just for, or thin or something like that. Didn't get all that. Again, uppercase, lowercase, okay, didn't care. So I'll just start with everything on the medium layer and then decide how I want it to go. And I think I'll do this with a more interesting color. I'll do that with this red, just for fun. In fact, when I'm doing these, I usually just work in shades of gray, just because that's what I've gotten used to that in Revit. They're going to print that way anyhow, so why have all these colors jumping in and out? But just to be clear what we're doing, I'll have these two different colors. So here I'm just going to do what you might have done by hand and start drawing some lines, snapping, F8 turned on. I got Control Z. I do want to turn off that. I'm going to turn off my O snaps right now. Go. So you see, I'm starting to put together the shape of the whole room. I can trim off the wall lines to the edge.
Draw a ceiling line and a floor line.
So that's the beginning of that window. So those will be the actual openings. And then I would offset these 4.5 to either side, 6 inches to the top. I've already done that. And I didn't measure the thickness of the sill or this little apron down here, but we can sort of say if that's 7 inches, maybe that's the same, that and that altogether, the same 4.5, something like that. And then for getting a little more detail, where we have the window, which is a half single light down here, and then, so we call this 5/1, wanting to put these in. Also, let's say this was, I'm guessing that's 2 inches all the way around. And then usually the middle of the window is right in the middle of those. So what I'll do is draw a line from the midpoint here to the midpoint there. I'll offset 1 inch either way. Get rid of that. And then we see, since the bottom sash is the one that's in front, we can trim these out. Okay, nothing more to do on the bottom one. This looks like it's a little deeper than the side pieces, so maybe that piece needs to move up. That's sort of your call when you're going around it. But the interesting thing will be how we get these spaced equally, and there's really no way to do that except with arithmetic. And let's just assume that those are each 1 inch thick. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. AutoCAD can do some math for us. And we'll see that this piece right here, in properties, is 2'6". So if we take 2'6" and subtract 4, we get 2'2". We need to divide that by 5 to get the actual gaps. It might not do with the feet. So that's 26 inches. So up here, AutoCAD can do some math functions just right inside it very easily without programming or anything. And this just basically says, its little delimiter for an expression is a
parentheses.
Divide 26 by 5.0. If I'd say divide 26 by 5, it would give me just 5 inches. But when you're putting in, telling it to divide it, something with a decimal point, include the decimal point over here. So my gap is now 5.2 inches, 1 inch, 5.2, 1 inch, like that. So let's see if that works. So offset 5.2, offset 1. Looks good. I don't have to keep doing that because I know I can keep copying this guy over the distance from here to here. So copy those from here to here, to here, to here.
Yeah, I would have like measured everything else.
No, it's a computer. So that just continuing copying from A to B and from B to C and C to D. I mean, it could be an array, but that takes longer to figure out. And you can just you can divide 26 by 5 on your calculator and get just as close as you want, but it's the same number. Anyway, so there's that. I would not bother putting in the curtains and the blinds. Now, are we going to do that all over again? I don't think so. So what I usually do in this case is, instead of like trying to copy the insides but not the outsides, I would just draw a little line, maybe get an angle off like this, erase that, and then just copy, get this out of here, copy that from there to there. So, and you could have made a block out of it or a group or something, but it's we're not making multiple copies of this through the whole drawing, so there's really no point. And then if you want to, put the lock in or something, you can. As far as I'm concerned, this is plenty for the windows.
Plus the trim.
My goal for today is to get these two relatively complete, and then we'll put them onto a title block and put the callouts and drawing numbers and make sure that people looking at the plan will know where to look on which sheet to look at. So let's get as much as you can get done on this in half an hour.
Attach. Go insert attach. Yeah.
Are walls on the detail layer too?
I'm definitely as much as we can. It's not.
Yeah, it's like, once in a lifetime opportunity. Never happened again.
What day was there?
It's like, I mean, you're like a boss woman. I love technology. Right? Yeah. I was never asked me what I wanted to do at graduation yesterday. I was like, I don't even thought. Really? No one's broken me on right.
Yeah, I just take the secret and try to
Computers and iPads.
No, but he asked me that and I was like, I was really concerned about that. I'm actually about to graduate. Right, but like, I'm
Are we drafting or are we
Sorry, I'm distracted, but I'm
conversating?
I'm not driving.
Cherokee was asking about how to scale this photograph more closely to the scale of the drawing. You know, I mean, it's taken at a slight angle and stuff, but we can get pretty close. And I would suggest doing this. It's just here any old size, you know, maybe make it much bigger just so to do that. And I know, because I measured, I have 8'11" from floor to ceiling. So let me just draw a line from right here straight down to right here, floor to ceiling. So right now that's, you know, 12 feet or something rather. I would like that to be, let me change that to make it more visible. I would like that line and the photograph along with it to be 8'11½, just to get it like right on the button. So what I'm going to do is pick both of them and pick scale, home modify scale. And it's asking me for my base point, which I'm going to put down here. I'm going to shrink this line to be 8'11½" and shrink the photograph with it. So that's my base point right there. And if I knew what, you know, 12 feet 3 divided by 8'9" was or whatever, I could put in that number. But what I want to do is put in a reference where I will just say, here's what I'm starting with, and what I want it to be is something else. So by reference, the distance is from that same point up to there. And whatever that is, I want to be 8'11.5. And so they both shrink down, and then there's our line 8'11½, and there's the whole thing 8'11½. And this is how actually, you know, we could have, in your photographs of these guys, you could have photographed this very carefully, straight on, taken the photograph, brought into AutoCAD, drawn a line, you know what that measurement is, scale this down so it's, you know, 4¼ inches, and then just trace it.
That work.
Cheating or not? You know, the nice thing about all this is, even if all these are on the wrong layer, I can just window them and change them in one step. So I would concentrate on getting the geometry drawn on one layer or another.
So we'll have something to put on the title sheets.
I just made notes. I didn't write it. Yeah, okay. Part 2 is actually a bit more involved than I thought. Yeah. For the presentation, just one back. Yeah, but I guess yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. A question came up in the kitchen, whether the lines of the window represented, what did that represent exactly? Is that the glass? Is that the trim? It's basically not the trim at all. It's wherever, you know, I think with the door, sort of wherever the trim stops and drops back to the operable part or the part that cranks or whatever. That would be the only time you really truly need to measure this, the width of the trim, would be if you knew kitchen cabinets or something were coming right in close to it. You just want to make sure you either missed them or knew that you were going to have to trim them off. I mean, in a nice elevation, yeah, you draw the trim just so you knew what you were getting, but that's not what you would really measure to. Worst comes to worst, you do one measurement that's the opening and another measurement that's the whole width of the finished assembly in place, just to know where things are.
I was in the lead singing group in high school. can show y'all actually. I got the opportunity to start saying. And you didn't take it? No, I had the opportunity. I did do electrical bits, but I in college. Like slave in my dress. Sorry. Oh my god. That was my like thinking. Oh my god, why did I say so many? These were dresses, right? That was all fun. And we sang for them.
No, it's just like.
Never. Like, I'm absolutely never watching that. What? Wait, what? Why am I making this question? No, why? No, we have to answer. Yeah. You need to, Jeremy has more. Oh my gosh, Lexi. No, I don't love them. I want to clarify, I don't love them. I just enjoy watching them together. Yeah, you're all. Sorry.
So yeah, should I get rid of my construction lines after I have it drawn, or?
I would say no, we'll just turn that layer.
Bill, if this is second, I understand.
Yeah. Please have at least like a rectangle for each of these. I like to move on with this so we don't waste time, but I would like to put these two views onto a title sheet and then make sure that whoever's looking at the plan knows which direction they're looking at in each of those two. It's sort of a basic part of telling people what's the relationship. You know, since everything's being drawn in 2D, we're asking them to take a 2D plan and a 2D elevation and sort of understand what the three-dimensional implications of that are. So I'll go over to my layout number 1. We've got a title block in red for some reason. Let's find out why. Oh, it's on the A detail medium. Well, you know, that's okay for time being. So to make our two views, what's the command? Remember to look through into model space. MView, points for Katie. I'm going to put one of them up here and one of them over here. Here they are. Well, let's do this actually. Let's do let's put the plan on this sheet. And then we'll put these two guys on another sheet. So that's I'm going to double click in here to make this active, and then zoom this guy to more or less fit in here. Z for zoom, window, voila. And this I want to set to a scale. That's sort of a normal scale, which I can't do from inside the window. I have to click outside, pick the window, and then give it the standard scale like we did last time. Let's see what ½ inch equals a foot gives us. ½ inch equals a foot. That's good enough. I'm going to change the annotation scale to ½ inch equals a foot just on general principles as well. So if we do start using annotative text or dimensions, or some of the symbols scale up and down with the scale of the drawing. So we'll make both of those ½ inch and lock it. Another way to do this is let's select it, unlock the display. If it came in like this, really the way to set the scale for this, we'll do the zooming and panning afterwards, would be to select it, change its standard scale to ½ inch, which gets it the right size on the screen. And then I would lock it. And then I drag the corners to fit the geometry that I want it to fit. So cropping out the elevations. Come on, you. If this were construction drawings, I'd want to leave an inch or two in paper scale just to get dimensions out there without getting them trimmed off. There's that. Let's get on layout 2. I think we'll put these elevations in also at a 1/2 inch equals a foot to make it easy for people to see that relationship. So M view. I'll just change its standard scale to 1/2 inch equals a foot. And then pan up or drag these guys up till it's one thing that's a little weird and confusing is my viewports are blue because they're just on this A detail light layer, which was just the current one when I started making them. I do want to change them to the def points layer so they A won't plot and B will be just light gray on the screen. A little less def points. Like that, something light. So I've got this one at all my scales here at 1/2 inch equals a foot, and I'll lock it so that doesn't mess up. Instead of going through that whole rigmarole twice, I can just copy this view over and then pan to see what I want to see. Copy to there. I'm going to, and the easiest thing is just to stretch this out to include the window one. I could have unlocked it and panned, but this is, just as straightforward. And this is about as big as you'd ever do elevations. You start making them much bigger, you're sort of required to fill them full of detail. There's no real need to put in for the most part. Okay, here's where we need to do manually what Revit does quite automatically, which is indicate the elevations on the plan and then number them on the sheet where they end up. But let's go back to layout 1. TEXT. I'm just going to do a single line text, and it'll be all the wrong size. We'll just scale it up later on. TEXT. I'm putting in a piece of text just to label this sheet. It's just a piece of text, TEXT, single line, type it in. And then it came in at some funny height and I just ended up scaling it up 1/2 inch high when I was finished with it. And typically your first floor plans will be in the 100s, a 100 and on up, second floor 200 and on up, basement 001, 002 if you need separate plans down there. So they sort of stack. It's nice to keep the numbers sort of indexed to the floor levels. Now, I'd like to get my piece of text. I'd like to get this over into that other layout in the same place. So I'm going to use a Control C, just the Windows copy. Control C, select the Control C over to here. Control V, and pop it in place, and then change its number. 102. Okay, so we got these. These are on A102. Now we want to, each of these needs a name and a number. So when we go back to the plan to say where to look for these, we'll know where they're looking. So if you will, go to insert. And there's already a block called a drawing title. And this is made to be inserted in paper space. You just drag it from the insert pop-up right into your drawing. Right into your drawing. He said right into the drawing. Oh, you have to click on it and then put it in place. Then we can copy that over to here. So we can click on that. And then down towards the bottom, where it says view title, we got a number and a view title and a scale. And that's where we can say, we'll leave the number at number 1. That's because that's what this is. We'll change the view title to be, this would be the north elevation. Looking north in plan at any rate. This guy will drag out to make the line be long enough, as well as slide the scale out. Oh, you can double click that and do this to get information in here. And the scale is 1/2 inch equals 1 foot 0 inch. So it looks like I can just double click that guy and it brings this up. Yeah. It shows up here, and then you change it down here. 1/2. So the point is, this is number 1 on A102. This is number 2 on A102. Now we need to go back to the plan. We either do this in model space or layout. Let's try it here, since this is where people are actually be looking at stuff. See how this works. We want to put in one elevation arrow looking north and one looking west. And we've already fluffily loaded these here. And that will be this one called, it's just a callout bubble. Click on that one. So it'll be small. Well, it's an 1/8 of an inch high. Okay, 1/8 of an inch text, that's fine. And this is a kind of a smart block that we're not going to get into putting those together. But this is number 1. If we select that block, first of all, we want its arrow pointing up. If I just rotate the whole block, the text will go as well. So built into this is the ability down here. There we are. It's the custom arrow rotation is 90. There we go. And the text stays the same. And pretty much always want the text to be legible, vertical like this. You don't want to have to turn sideways on the plan. And we can just copy this over here to aim at this wall where the window is. Look at this. Double click that, cancel. Flip the symbol direction. Set the rotation angle of the symbol. Woo, that's more fun. Click it and drag it. And then this one becomes number 2 down here in attributes down at the bottom.
Is it one or layout?
Say again?
Is this on your layout?
This is right on top of my layout one. It's not in the, it's just on the sheet here. It's not down in the model. That's just more stuff to get confused and get the furniture in the way. And the one thing I need to change here is I need to change the sheet number from 101 to A102, which is where it actually is for us. So how do I do that? Double click. Enter sheet number. I'm doing -102. I better do this uppercase, huh? Double click, it's very handy. A-102. And typically, if you have a wall that's on a 45, you'll have the angle aiming, the arrow aiming directly at that, and but the numbers still vertical. That's the gist of navigating within a drawing set from a plan where you see everything that has then callouts to more information, either larger or in more detail, or in this case, a whole different kind of a view. And it's fine until somebody decides, oh, actually, let's rename these. Rename these layouts instead of layout 1 and 2. Let's rename them to A101. Right click, rename A102. And for some reason, I'm blaming this on your boss, realized, oh, I need to get a bunch of more drawings. I need to get some more, an enlarged floor plan drawing that I actually want to be on A102. So this is going to have to go up to A103. So it's easy enough right here. And actually we can do that. We can make a new layout and then drag it over there. So that'll be the new A102, and this one will be the A103. All we have to do is change the text. So double click and go. But now on our plan, these still point to A102, seem to come back, change them here. And okay, Revit does all of this. It just does all of it. You rename them, renumber them, move them from sheet to sheet. It just renumers them. It's like, it's just great. But in all the firms that are still doing this with AutoCAD, when you see down on the title block, it says designed by, drawn by, checked by. That means that somebody, the checker, who might be a job captain or a principal or somebody, has come through to make sure that every reference of these actually points to that detail of that number on that sheet. And in a big drawing set, it can be just a killer, especially if things have been renumbered or revised, or you've had to insert somebody else's sheet into your project. Okay, one. Okay. And while I'm at it, I should probably go down and change the layout number. Double click, right click to 103 as well, just so that all stays in sync. So there's a lot of keeping track of stuff, and it helps if you're making a presentation or sort of getting everything ready to go out to bid early on to figure out what your sheets are, where they're going to be, so you don't have to come back and do lots of revisions later on. So save this. The assignment will be essentially doing this exact same process with 3 of the rooms in your apartment. Back here in model space is 4 elevations of each room. You'll find you can copy a bunch from one wall to the next. If you've got a door, you just copy it straight over. And if these are all just straight across in a line, instead of jumping all over the place like that, it's just really easy to copy stuff. It just stays right lined up with where it's supposed to be. Then you just have to line it up vertical with that, whatever it connects to.
Did you say 4 elevations in each room?
I think that's what I said. Did I post it yet? I haven't posted it yet.
It said that it will involve drafting all 4 wall elevations of the 3 rooms.
Well, there you are. Yeah. And there's a huge amount of copying. I mean, even from room to room, there's copying. You can copy a whole room with a door over to here, move the door, move the wall in, and you're done. I mean, if you got 2 fancy closet doors in different rooms, you do it once and copy it. Yeah.
So you don't have furniture.
No furniture, just the permanent stuff. Schematic range, schematic refrigerator, just a rectangle with a handle on it. I'll include an example in the actual assignment, which I'll put up tonight. Casework for sure. Yeah. And when you're doing the casework, you know, if you'll notice, these lines are representing where the base cabinets are, and this where the top cabinet is. Using those same modules working in from the end until they get wider here at the sink, and then back down. So, you know, originally these lines went all the way across, and I just trimmed them out where I didn't need them. There's no point measuring that one, and then doing it all again up the top if they just won't line up. At the ends, very often, you know, to get things to work around your window or sink or whatever, you'll end up putting some spacer in. The cabinets come in, unless they're super custom, always in 3-inch width modules. So anything less than that, you just fill in with a spacer. So I do my refrigerator in here. Now, once I get back to the A103, I want to turn off my construction lines. I could just make that a no plotting layer, so they would remain visible here, but just never plot. But I think I'd like to just turn them off so I really understand what I've got here. So I'll get into this window. And remember VPFREEZE, where did VPFREEZE go to? Viewport. Oh, right here. That's right, because they're so constant. Okay, so in this one, I want to freeze that construction layer. I clicked it twice. So there's that. Oh, and I can sort of covering up where I was missing some lines. So it probably is a good idea to get rid of that. So to fix that, I can just, I love the way I say just all the time to make it seem like it's so simple. I double click in there. I'll draw a line on some layer or other to here. Leave room for the window. And here I want to get perpendicular to that one. So I'll use the shift right click, perpendicular, snap. Okay, so that's about got, you know, we could draw on the window and put handles on the cabinets. Handles optional.
Do we need to put a backsplash?
Backsplash, yeah, 4-inch backsplash. Forgot about that. That was easy. Just added $300 to the cost of the project. And it's just like, it's not our money. So that's the idea. It's not fundamentally different from anything that you did in manual drafting for elevation. Where it becomes useful, you know, and I'll if there's another room over here somewhere, F8. It has just a single window. Well, close enough. Let's do this right. Stretching, crossing window. I would, stretch. You got to be careful with this. The snaps can click on stuff you don't want to look at. There's that, and move it over, and there's room too. So it's not really that hard. And you'll certainly see in your own apartments, your door is going to be, if you've got bifold doors on one closet, it's going to be on the other closet. If you've got a window this high over here, it's going to be the same thing over there. Windows in bathrooms, kitchens and bathrooms usually have a slightly higher sill height, just to get over the sink and get some privacy.